Welcome to this week's edition of the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Rowe, the head coach, Chad Brubaker. Springford lost in the second round of district playoffs, 30-27, pure heartache, heartbreaker, as you would say, in overtime. Now, once again, we've been doing this a while. We haven't had a lot of overtime games in your career, I would say.
Exeter in 2018.
So our second overtime game in high school in your career.
One at Wilson. We were successful against Exeter, lost to Wilson 41-40.
Yeah,
I think 3.
And it's just once again, overtime's tough to lose no matter what, but really tough for the season to end.
Yeah.
That sort of way is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
And it truly was a back and forth game out there. The whole second half, score upon score upon score. It was kind of really one of those situations. Whoever's going to get the ball last, you really kind of. It's
funny you mentioned that.
Wow. We had no pre-discussion here too.
Well, there was some discussion on the staff as to how we talked about trying to onside kick before or after Swanger's kickoff return, which was our second to last score.
Yes.
Talked about it, was ready to do it, and then decided too much time left. We needed to get a stop. I mean, that's what we needed, obviously. And then we talked about it again after Will Fish scored his touchdown.
Was there talk about going for 2 there, or was it
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, because the fact of the matter is, the overtime very much favors their offense.
Yes.
Having to stop them because they're going to go for it. 4 plays in a row is a huge ask. Plus, putting the ball in the 3, huge ask for 2 points. So the other thing that was talked about, was on the last drive, just selling out and letting them score. If they score, they score.
Yeah, and try and get the ball back.
And hope that they kick the extra point, not realizing that, we're kind of, quote unquote, allowing them to score.
Yeah.
Or allowing them to take the kickoff back for a touchdown and faking like we were chasing. All those things kind of went through our head. The question, if you do that, then you got to go down and score, and then we would have gone for 2.
Right.
Obviously. I don't know. It's, all those scenarios are hard because we could be sitting here and we purposely let them score, and then we don't score, and you're thinking, well, what if we had gotten a stop?
Right.
Our defense played great all year long. And so, and they've come up big in situations where we needed a stop. And they actually did come up big. They missed the field goal.
Yeah.
They did.
Because they kind of almost tried to trick you. They threw the ball there almost when they're thinking run. I was just as I was watching, they were truly 3 yards, 4 yards, 5. It was I think you talked about it, there's not a lot of negative plays with them.
Correct.
It's all positive. They're always falling forward. It's never get hit and push back. It's always everything's positive. Everything's positive. And with that being said, they were putting together some massive drives, 15 plays, 16 plays, and then you have a kickoff return for you're happy with the kick return, but now your defense is back out there for it again.
I think had we, there was 4 minutes and 7 seconds left when we scored.
To go up, yes.
I think had there been definitely 2 or under, we would have gone for two because they would really struggle to score in 2 minutes.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So, it was one of those things it goes against every fiber of your being to allow a team to score. And
you're 100%, I hear what you're, it's, like you said, listen, our defense has come up big. Let's go out there. Let's go get a stop. Like you said, one stop to win a district game, to get into the semifinals. And sorry, not throwing dirt, dirt on it, that sort of thing, you would have hosted this week too. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, so like.
No, trust me, we knew that.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the idea of letting them score and do stuff like that. I guess my question was, when we scored at 4 minutes, go for 2 there, or and once again, I like where you said it. Let's go play defense. Let's try and get a stop. Let's sell out and try and get a stop. And listen, it just happened to be you couldn't get that stop.
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. If we don't get the 2 there and we don't tie it, then the game's essentially over right now at 4 minutes, because they're going to run the clock down and it's over.
Yeah.
And, if it had been a little less, where it's clear, like, we've got to take the 2, we got to try for 2 now and win the game, as opposed to, with the 4 minutes, there's like, it's kind of, gray.
No man's land.
It's no man's land. And again, it's hard. Their offense is really hard to defend, and how they run it. Their running backs are shot out of a cannon. Their quarterback, we gave them 3 or 4, well, we gave them more than that, but we gave them 3 base different looks. And then within those base looks, we gave them, variations, and their quarterback gets into the play that they need to get into. So it's really difficult, to defend them, and
it was tough to watch because I'm like, where's the ball? Like, it was very difficult for me to even, as watching, did the fullback get the ball? And then all of a sudden you see like another guy go right through the same hole with the ball. It was
one gap out, but
it was an odd. Yeah. It was odd to watch, and I'm sure obviously very difficult to defend.
Yeah, and we did get some stops. There's a couple things. When you have a game that is that close, you look back. There were a few plays, like we dropped a surefire pick-6 interception. We kicked a field goal, but previously on the drive, missed a wide open receiver. Our players will tell you that they were really questioning 2 of the extra points, if they were
good or not.
If they were good or not. I mean, in the second one, they really reacted right away. Both they gave them. I mean, that would have been interesting, right?
Sure.
They missed that extra point, or they call it a missed extra point, and that's also going to affect everything that we do from that point out. But we played very, very well. We played better. They haven't lost a District 1 game since 2019.
Whatever we talked about last
week.
Yeah.
We don't take, solace to the fact that we played them the best of anybody in the past 3 years. But, there's certainly no hanging our heads after the game. I think that, there's things that we would go back and do differently if we could. Of course, I'm sure they would, do the same thing. But you cannot question our kids' efforts. You cannot question our kids' desire. You cannot question any of those things. And so that, to me, if you do that, if you can't do that, then you tip your cap.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. I was going to finish it for you.
So, it would have been a tremendous win for our program and for our kids.
And you talked about it in the previous shows. We talked about the idea that this is like a totally open field, and it's playing out that way. The 1 seed wins in a game that gets overtime. Yeah. Then you got the 13 or 12 seed. You got the 2 seed, Perkiomen Valley, still alive. And then what was CB West the start of this? 10?
11 maybe.
Something like, so you got, so like it is. It was, the chalk hasn't made its way through 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here's the other thing about playoffs. I see all these things like they're lopsided scores, and I think we've talked about this before. But, at some point in a game, if you're losing by 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, let's say, it's real easy for that to snowball when it's your last game, because what goes through a 16, 18-year-old kid's head is my last football game of the year or of my high school career, and they're not focused on the things they need to be focused on, and all of a sudden that snowball goes down the hill. That's not that's just playoff football. That's just how it is. Now the close games become closer, the wider games become wider, and it's not necessarily indicative that one team didn't belong, in those more lopsided games. It's that kids are starting to realize what's going on, and their heads go down, and you got to fight that. That's happened to us. It's happened to us in previous years.
And once again, I mean, I'm not saying anything for anything, but at some point, maybe coaches want it more. Kids I'm just ready to be done. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to play basketball. I'm ready to go wrestle. Whatever the case may be.
That happens.
And coaches are all in it. That happens as well too. You know what I mean?
Well, you get down 3 touchdowns, and where does your mind go?
Yeah. I got ready for hoop season. I got to start running or whatever.
Yeah. So those types of things, are all factors. But I don't think there's. People talk about there's too many teams in the playoffs. I'm well, first of all, what if a team loses its quarterback and they really don't have a very viable backup, and in the middle of the season they lose 3 or 4 games, but now he's back for the playoffs? Is that team not viable? A viable candidate to win the playoffs because of that? They don't get in the tournament? Come on. Yeah,
no, like I said, people like playoff football. I mean, once again.
I don't know. You wouldn't know that by Friday night. It wasn't a lot of people at that game.
And we scared them off with the weather. The weather wasn't that bad.
The weather was perfect.
Perfect?
It was perfect.
A little windy? No wind?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here. Weather was perfect on Friday. All right, before we do highlights here, obviously.
Even for Garnet Valley. They were the home team.
They were the
home team. Their stands, I was wow, I thought this was going to be
weather scared people.
Walk into a
we
buzzsaw,
were I'm going to watch on the. I did see it was over I don't know what numbers we're pulling here. It was over 1,000 people watching at some point. It was a legit
Oh,
watch.
I believe that.
Yeah, I was checking out the YouTube machine, that sort of thing. All right, so before you go here, you're obviously saying goodbye to some really key pieces of this offense, but you got some key guys coming back too a little bit in this program here too. But I mean, talk about some of the guys, those seniors on the offensive that have been your big contributors on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, we lose Ryan Shaner on our offensive line. We lose our center Ryan Shaner and Mike Scalia at right guard, and then Dan Winters and Colin Sweeney at left guard. And I'll start with Colin and Dan. Boy, we didn't know coming in the season, Colin missed his whole junior year with an injury, and those two really fed off of each other and really played very solidly at left guard. Ryan has been steady throughout his career, moved from guard to center, and is just, when we moved him to center, is just, fell into that role.
Quarterback of the offensive line,
does a tremendous job. And then Mike Scalia. Mike really improved his footwork, his strength, and also, Mike always has a little nasty in him, and he just, in his pass pro, just improved tremendously as a senior, and that's what you hope for. So those guys, obviously, Will Fish at running back, a bit unorthodox. There's so many coaches that have talked to me after our game, and they'll say, hey, I didn't realize how
20,
good 20 is. Yeah. We see him on film. He's more of a plodding type running back. He's not, he's not going to run away from a ton of secondary people.
Not a razzle-dazzle type of guy with you, that sort of thing.
But they say, wow.
Yeah.
That kid is a really good high school football player.
Runs guys over. Yeah, he runs guys over.
Finishes runs. And then on the perimeter, we lose Zach Zollers, obviously. Zach qualifies for our Wall of Fame in more categories, I think, than anybody in Springford history. Just tremendous out there. A.J. Felino and Ali Safa, who were senior backup wide receivers. Those guys,
they stepped in and made contributions for you out the way too. Yeah,
it's it's tough. It's tough. So those guys do a great job. Obviously, we'll talk about who's coming back.
Yeah, we'll at the end here we'll talk about the.
But then the other one is Gage Swanger on offense, played defense as well.
And you said the injury,
Gage Swanger from the first play of Manheim Township, tried to get back in a couple games, but really wasn't able to really contribute until we got to the Phoenixville game. And you can see, I mean, he set a record for most career kickoff returns for touchdowns. Like, we have a list on our record board of longest plays in Springford history. Like, he literally has 4 in the top 15.
Yeah.
And that's not, and he has a couple other ones in, catching football. So we're really going to miss, those guys on the offensive side. But we'll talk about the guys we have coming back later.
At the end. And you can see here, like, it's tough. It's tough as coaches to say goodbye to these kids.
It's very emotional
they're
after the game.
And they've been a big part of whatever you've done, your success, your failures, all of that sort of thing. Sure. They're a big part of all that. So it is tough to say goodbye to kids.
It is. And, we have the fortune of being at the beginning of the year, so time passes a little bit, and some of that stuff, falls to the wayside. The bitterness of how it ends falls to the wayside. But, we had an opportunity to hug each of our players after the game in the locker room, and those guys, I think they get it. It's hard. You were a senior once. Like,
sure.
It's really hard. No matter how your senior year goes, like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa,
it's done.
It's over.
Yeah.
And it's just done. That's it. So I feel we have good relationships with these guys, and hopefully they come back around like some other guys have done.
Yeah, good stuff there, Coach. All right, let's take a look at the offensive highlights from Springford, Garnet Valley.
This was a big play, on our first drive, and Matt and Will actually did this on their own, which we gave them the ability to do. But instead of just blocking that outside linebacker, like, if he doesn't cover you, just go, and it's an easy read. Here's Will Fish. We had a couple different plays. This was a trap. We haven't run very many traps all year, and we put this in for this week. You can see the kick out right there. And there's where Will, like, that surprises kids. They think that, they know they have to go low because he's a big dude, but then he just sidesteps them, and here he is again. He gets hit at, like, the 5, and his balance is tremendous. He just kind of goes, lets momentum take him into the end zone there. You'll see right there, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And sees the cutback to the left there too. Sees where the hole is. See where the space is.
This was a really nice RPO play where we got Zach over the top and got down inside the 25 there. Our drives, I forget how many possessions we have. In a normal game, we probably get 13 possessions, 12, 13 possessions. I think we only had 7 in this game. So,
they chewed up some clock. Yeah, their time possession was pretty good. This is Swanger's
97-yard kickoff return, like, untouched, and just Evan Strzemanski did such an unbelievable job. He kicks out. And
I'm watching it live. I think he's going to get caught. It's not even close to hitting him, catching him here too.
No, Gage doesn't get caught. You'll see a great job here too by Ryan Kirchner. And I forget who we had on that, but I think it's Nick Garzarella maybe. Those guys double-teamed and just blew that kid up and opened up a huge hole, and then Evan Strzemanski kicked out and did a really nice job. Here's Will again,
Another big first down for you. I remember watching this live.
Right there. I mean, he's dead to rights almost at the line of scrimmage, and just steps out of a tackle right here. And that's a pretty good tackler. Like, their defense tackles well. And here's another one. I think
it's that full house look you guys have here.
Yeah,
and he
right
breaks
there,
that tackle
and then walks in.
And that's the one that got you guys back into the
right. That was the tie game.
Tie game then.
Kick out by Mike Bendowski. Just a good job by those guys. I mean, again, we played very well. We only punted once. We scored 3 touchdowns. Am I right on that?
24, yep. And you kicked a field goal. And another field goal in overtime, 27, yep.
So we scored 3 times, only punted once, and didn't even make 300 yards of offense. Now, Gage's kickoff return. Well, here's something else, touch back on what you talked about earlier. If Gage doesn't return that kick for a touchdown and we get a drive going on that, it might be us at the end.
Sure.
Not that I'd ever say stop.
Yeah.
But maybe we should have had him run out of bounds at the
Run
one.
across, like the Deshaun Jackson just run across.
Take a knee like 3 times and then try to score.
Yeah,
Like that's the other. Like literally, if we had gotten down to the 1 yard line and it was 1st and goal from the one on the last scoring drive, it would have crossed my mind.
Yeah. Well,
you saw maybe take the knee at least twice. Wait, and if they waste their timeouts, great.
Yeah.
Or if they don't, we run a minute and a half off. But,
it's crazy how things, like if you watch the Eagles last night, at the end of the first half, like Commanders, out of timeouts, they only rush one guy, and they're basically defending the perimeter of the field. Like, don't let him get out of bounds. Yeah. Keep the play inbounds. You don't think about it, but you're like, obviously they practice that. You know what I mean? But it's just simple things. You got to be able to think like that and make that decision. So. All right, Coach, good segment there. Yeah. I think people might stay tuned here, all right?
They should.
All right, make sure you stay tuned through the commercial break, and we'll show the defensive highlights from Springford Garnet Valley.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look. Welcome back to the Gridiron, sponsored by Patriot Chevrolet. I'm your host, John Brown, with head coach Chad Brubaker. All right, Coach, obviously no more announcements here. Defense, let's talk about this defense once again. Like you talked about before you got to the postseason, boy, they were putting up some staggering numbers out there for you. And really against some of the best competition, well, you played 2 teams from the Central out there, came up with some stops out there. And just really remember, they did stop on that last drive when they had an opportunity to kick a field goal and win the game. They did come up with a stop for you there too. So
we came up with a turnover on downs. They didn't punt, but turnover on downs and 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Which is a mini victory. I mean, it's better than a touchdown, obviously, and we felt pretty good about that, especially the second one after they had driven down and scored on their first drive. We didn't score. And they came back and they're driving, and we held them to a field goal, which was huge.
Yeah.
To make it 10-0. Then we figured them out a little bit.
So let me ask you a defensive question here a little bit too. So obviously they weren't going to make a huge commitment to throwing the ball out there. And once again, I'm not a great watcher. Was it discussion? We're just going to, even if you stack the box, put extra guys in there, is it almost 2 guys in one area, like they're going to run into each other? Is it like, I guess what I'm trying to say is just totally take away the dive, take away. It's almost
they're
like
reading it.
Okay.
They're reading everything.
So even if you put more guys in there, they're going to read that there's another guy in there. Is what I'm trying to get at, right?
Yeah. So they can extend it. So they can extend it to wherever they need to extend it, and they'll run the quarterback if they'll just block down, and run the quarterback outside. And they can block down and release a tight end too. Like the tight end could block down and release. So you have to be careful with that. Like, they did get a long pass play early in the game. From there, we did a nice job for the most part in the passing game. Like I said, we almost shoulda, coulda, woulda had a pick 6 that would have really changed the dynamic because they never were trailing.
Yeah.
And that pick 6 would have created a scenario where they were trailing. Yeah, I mean, our defense, our kids played very, very hard. They did what we asked them to do. Their backs are shot out of a cannon. They're not like going to be, Division I. They don't have Division I kids.
Yeah.
But man, their kids play really hard and they play low. Their running backs are 5'9".
They're just tough to see.
Their
Like
quarterback's 5'9" or less, and they are strong and they run hard and they run low and they bounce off people and yeah.
Like I said, it was a lot of. I don't want to use the word demoralizing, but it's just positive play.
It's hard.
Positive play. When
a team has 14 play drives, that's difficult because you're tired.
Yeah.
Like the farther they go down the field, the more tired you are, and they're very good. They're very good.
It'll be interesting to see this week's outcome. I'm intrigued to see what them versus the Cougars. What happens?
I have a prediction, but I won't share it.
Yeah, it's for you. It's to keep it in your own head out there. Yeah. That's fine. Also, kudos to the Pack PV still alive out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We talked about them out there, so they have an opportunity to get to a district final. I'm going to guess the last time was that when we were in it last time, a 6A? Has PV ever made the 6A final?
No.
Okay, so they have an opportunity.
They've been in this round.
They've made it to the semifinals. Yeah. Okay. All right. So once again, we talked about some seniors on offense, and I know Zollers is a dual threat
we'll
guy.
Skip over those guys.
Those guys they did. So talk about some of your guys that were like your main parts of this defense too that you're going to
Well, on the defensive line, Franny Undercuffler, I even said to him after the game, like, buddy, I didn't know that. Coming into the year, I didn't know if he could do it.
Yeah.
Not from a desire standpoint, but he's 185 pounds. He changed his body for the better, and I think last year he was definitely over 200. Changed his body a little bit in the weight room, wrestling and that type of thing, and came in. We were just like hoping that he, be a little thicker. But man, did he play! Like what he lost in thickness, he played. He made up for in quickness and speed. Just had a tremendous senior year. Brandon Goss came in our 50 package and came back again. He missed all of his junior year with a knee injury. Fought back, hurt him, broke his rib in the middle of this season. Finally got him back prior to Ridley, and he was just a huge, huge contributor. So, those guys were really, really good. And then Luke Pajevich, again. We've had this guy, the Luke Pajevich type guy, for a long time where they're 108. He changed his body too. When he was a sophomore, I think he was like 220.
Okay.
And same height. And he changed his body tremendously. He is one of our strongest pound for pound kids. He's 185 pounds. He's smart as a whip. He told me on the sideline, Coach, I'm calling every play that they're running, but we still can't stop him.
Yeah.
He's 185 pounds, just played tremendously. We talked about Will already. Matt Yurko, who plays Will linebacker. Again, wasn't sure how good Matt would be coming into the season, in the summer and whatnot. He did put weight on. He's very dedicated in the weight room, but we haven't seen him on the varsity field. All he did was, he was in the top 3 or 4 in tackles on our team.
Never came off the field for your defense.
Never came off the field. Just did an unbelievable
Holder in your
job.
kicking game, yeah.
Yep. And then Travell Wellens at corner. Again, there's another one going in, and I told him this too. I wasn't sure. We knew he's fast enough, but what he was able to do, and Travell was never like this, and sometimes it clicks when you're a senior. You have to be so technical at cornerback. And you can be the fastest guy in the world, but that doesn't mean you can play corner very well. Coach Moyer and Coach Mick did a tremendous job with Travell. And to Travell's credit, he was very coachable and, got the job done. So, Kevin Canuso also played corner for us in special teams. And then Gage is the other guys are underclassmen, but Gage played some safety. And then Jake Ray. We lost Jake Ray. It was a huge hit to us because Gage wasn't ready to come back yet, really. Jake was our punter. And he's coaching up from the sidelines and, yelling from his wheelchair on the sideline. And, we hope him a healthy recovery.
Yeah, I remember him trying to get into the locker room after the Ridley game. So it was like, it's a production to get him into
It's definitely a production.
And once again, from the director, between the Ridley game and Ridley Gridiron, I think it was around 4,000 total views between the two. I don't know what the breakdown of
it's that
who's
playoff
watching.
ratings.
It could have been 2,000, 2,000. I don't know what it was, but
the ratings always go up during
yeah, I
the
mean,
playoffs.
so yeah, there's your extra incentive to keep that going right there. We got to get.
Listen, playoff football is my favorite. It
Yeah.
just really is, and over the last couple years, there was a gap there where we were getting some matchups that weren't necessarily in our favor, and we let some of the games get away from us, even though we were more competitive than the scoreboard looked. And then, the last few years, and this year especially, we got that monkey off our back, so to speak, and won that game, and then played so well last week. I think that is we're going to ride that momentum into the off season and into next fall.
All right, good stuff. Let's take a look at the defensive highlights from Springford Garnet Valley.
Well, you see here, we did get a couple, but, he kind of bobbled this snap and the ball got on the ground. He was a little late on that jet sweep. And, man, it would have been nice to get one of those. They didn't make many mistakes. Here's the pick.
Oh.
Shane would make that play 99 times out of 100. Can't really see it there.
Everybody knows it, too.
Yep, and there's no way Shane would have gotten caught. Like, Shane is a fast sophomore. There's another play. This is what we wanted to do. That's a heck of a play, by the way, I think it's Will Fish. Like, he tackles the quarterback and
moves on to the running back.
That's a heck of a play.
Yep. Stay with one, get to the next.
Yeah. What were we saying? Oh, yeah. They just didn't make very many mistakes. Like here, this was a 4th down play. And, he was trying to make something happen there. But we did a good job in pass coverage. He really had nowhere to go. And that was our best stop of the evening. But it was still in our territory, by the way.
And there's one of the rare negative plays where you kind of you take away the dive, you take away everything.
It's not a dive. It's a midline read.
There you go. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
What a play by Evan Strzemanski there. Like, he just did a tremendous job. And here's another one. This was a 3rd down, I think. So this ended up being a field goal attempt. Yeah, it's the same play twice because we didn't have the end zone of it. So, we did a good job especially in the passing game, because if you watch them on film, you'll see receivers open by 15, 20 yards and nobody's around them. That kind of happened to us the first pass of the night, but from there we did a nice job.
All right, Coach. Well, usually we do commercial here, but we're just going to run it into to our last segment, a little, preview, or not preview, like inside the coaching world, what's the offseason going to look like? When are you going to see the kids? When are you going to start doing stuff? But I guess if I'm an outsider to the program, I'm obviously looking at your quarterback, sophomore quarterback. I think you hear coaches talk about the throws he makes, the plays he can make out there. I mean, talk about the jump that you feel that your quarterback can make in this program and what he can do for this program.
Well, I'm not worried about that. We talked, Matt's already very, very good. And he's going to make, more strides decision-wise. Like, on Friday night, there was one play where he tried to make a throw and he could have run for a 1st down. He won't make that mistake next year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work hard in the winter, especially because he's going to play baseball. We're going to work hard on his footwork. Sometimes some balls get away from him a little bit when his footwork's not where it needs to be. But he already is. He's 7th all-time already in career passing yards. He pretty much, if he stays healthy, he's going to set every quarterback record that Springford's ever had. And so we feel pretty good about that, him coming back. So as a junior.
All right. So maybe an area where you're like, you see question marks. Where I'm going to say defensive line. Like, I feel like a lot of the guys you talk about an area where you're like,
let's finish on offense.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going on offense.
So we have Bilal Abdul-Rahman and Mason Scott, and there's other kids that we like at wide receiver right now, underclassmen that you may not know their names yet. And Ryan Kirchner at tight end, who's a freshman, and he made tremendous strides. Coach Palmer did an unbelievable job with him throughout this season. just in terms of pass routes as well as his run game stuff. We have 2 linemen returning, Luke Eller and Owen Norman. We have some kids in the pipeline, AJ Moyer, who's a freshman that we expect big things from next year. And at running back, we have Mike Bendowski, who only averaged 12 yards a carry this year. Jamal Lewis, who we think can be very, very good.
Didn't he play for the Ravens?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, you got him back? Like he went back in time?
Yeah, he went back in time.
Okay, awesome.
He broke his collarbone this year and never really was able to recover from that, but he's going to work real hard in the offseason, I know, just like he did last year. So then on the defensive side, the defensive line coming back, Evan Strzemanski is an all-league player at our 3 technique. But we have some other guys that, underclassmen, AJ Moyer, Bryce Roberts is someone that if Bryce, if we can get his motor going all the time, we're going to have something. So he's going to be a special player. Ryan Kirchner can play defensive end. Giassi Romu, who is another kid that we need to have big things from at the defensive line position. Linebacker, obviously Mike Bendowski's back. We have to replace Will Fish and Matt Yurko. But there's some guys that, if they have good off seasons, we think can play. One that stands out right at the top of, my thoughts is Braden Welsh, who got on the field in special teams. He's a sophomore, big kid, like loves contact, like seeks it.
Yeah.
We have some other guys too. And then in the secondary, Shane Lewis and Bilal Abdulrahman are back. Anthony Early's a kid whose name you'll get to know. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Jordan Marsilio on the offensive side or defensive side. There's some other, there's some juniors that are in the mix. So Dustin Flynn played really well on JV at corner. He's just got to get stronger. So there's just a lot of kids, and I'm probably missing some.
Sure.
Because we're on live television here, and you put me on the spot, but.
That's what they pay me. That's what the big bucks for the journalism right here. That's what they do right here on this.
But I think there's the future is bright.
And they're gonna get, and they're gonna get in the fitness center with Coach Will in there. They're gonna
Coach Giosis.
Coach Will. Coach Giosis is gonna get in there.
Gio.
He's gonna get him rocking and rolling in some off-season stuff. I know you got some kids that are gonna play some hoops, some wrestle. You got some lacrosse guys, baseball guys out there.
Track.
So they got some track guys. Yeah, you'll have some of that then too. But like end of May, if I remember, like you'll do some mini camp stuff, that sort of thing, before you get out of here for the end of the
season. Yeah, the end of May we do. We'll meet with quarterbacks. We usually, in terms of meeting stuff, we'll go over our season as an offensive staff and what do we want to tweak, what do we want to keep the same. Go to some clinics and then get that all together. Meet with the quarterbacks in the spring, late winter. And kind of get rolling again. But yeah, we have mini camps in May, or early June.
And then we're out of school.
Out of school, but.
See, we're already talking about the end of the school year.
But
it's a great show. We're talking about the end of the school year already.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to the weight room in this off season because I think there's some kids with some talent. They just need to get in the weight room. They weren't quite ready for prime time.
Yeah.
And they just need to get in the weight room. And now the great thing about our weight room is we always have wanted our kids to play other sports. But now throughout every sport, they're lifting in season as well, which wasn't always the case in the past. So now that's always the case. They're lifting in season, they're lifting out of season. And that's exciting for us because some of these games in previous years, when we didn't have that in place, by the end of the season, our guys weren't the same.
Yeah.
And now that's different. Our guys were getting stronger, especially our sophomore kids were getting stronger during the year.
Question for you here as we get out of here. I know you guys do some clinics. You guys coaches, you go and learn things. Is there a clinic for like a social media director or like a person like that asks questions within the program that like, those type of programs around that sort of thing?
2 years ago, I did a clinic session for PSFCA on social media.
Yeah, I don't want to do like a Zoom. I want to go. Like, don't you guys go to like colleges and universities? Like, find it out. Let me know. Like, maybe I'll just tag along and I'll do some social media.
I
that
see.
Sort of
For
thing.
you, well, you can watch that if you want to.
No, I don't want to watch yours. I want to go. Like, you know what I mean? Sounds like, oh, let's go to Penn State. Let's go meet Coach Franklin. Oh, that sounds fun. Like, you know what I mean?
We do that every offseason.
Well, Leston, who's the gridiron? Who's been the gridiron guy for 12 or however many years we've been doing this shenanigans for?
I don't know. Yeah, there are things like that. You can sit down with I can hook you up with Penn State's, director of football.
When you guys go, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to be my own endeavor. Like, I'll join in is what I'm trying to say.
Sure, we'll bring you.
Okay, there you go. You guys heard it here. There you guys. Everybody got it right there. All right, well, Coach, another season in the books, Gridiron.
That's it.
We're still in the stadium here. Maybe next year we'll get a new
press box.
New press box, that sort of thing. Maybe some new chairs.
Yeah, that would be nice.
New chairs. That's my request in my contract for the 2023 season.
New chairs.
New chairs. All right. Well, Coach, good
Thanks,
good
buddy.
stuff to share. All right.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in this season of the Gridiron. For the head coach Chad Brubaker, I'm John Brennan. See you next season on the Gridiron.